No one likes pay to win. Well, except publishers. They get a lot of money out of it. Gamers, most of us aren't rich, so most of us don't like them. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 worst pay-to-win mechanics in recent games. Starting at number 10, the invisible skin from Call of Duty Warzone. A recent one that's been terrorizing the Call of Duty Warzone community. There is a tier 100 operator skin that you can get as part of Pacific Season 1 Battle Pass called Awoken Francis. Looking at this guy, you wouldn't think that there are really any pay-to-win concerns. He's not camouflaged or anything, but there's one little problem. He's bugged. Apparently from up to 35 meters away, he just appears as a floating head, and the rest of his body's invisible, which makes him a lot harder to hit at any kind of range. Being a tier 100 unlock, the only people that had access to this guy early on were the ones who bought the battle pass, and that obviously gave them a huge advantage. Raven eventually fixed the issue, but this bugged skin was in the game and remained unfixed for multiple weeks, which was highly irritating for the player base. This whole thing's an unusual case. It was a pay-to-win skin that basically existed because of a bug. It wasn't intentional, but the fact that players could abuse this broken skin that they had to pay for as long as they did is the developer's fault. Like, you'd think it'd be pretty easy to just make the skin inaccessible while they fixed it, but apparently not. And this isn't even the first time this year Warzone has seen a skin that a lot of people give an unfair advantage. There was also the Rook skin for the character Rose. Like, look at it. It's totally black. No one thought this would be a problem, and it took the developers like months to adjust this one. So actually it could have been a lot worse with Francis over here. Warzone has had a few pay-to-win issues in 2021, but a lot of the biggest ones were because of dumb mistakes the dev team made more than anything else. At number 9 is item enhancers from Pokemon Unite. Nintendo's attempts to dip their toes in the world of free-to-play mobile gaming has had its ups and downs. People loved Pokemon Go for a while, but games like Dr. Mario kind of floundered. Pokemon Unite, which first released on the Switch and then on mobile, looks more and more like a step in the right direction for the company, but it definitely had its issues with pay-to-win at first. The biggest issue, back when the game was a Switch exclusive, were these item enhancers you could use to upgrade your items. These held items would give your chosen Pokemon increased attack, health, defense, stuff like that, while item enhancers could boost those items and make them stronger up to 30 times back when the game first came out. You could get item enhancers the normal way by completing challenges or upgrading the battle pass, or you could actually spend real money to get them. According to this Polygon article, it costs around $40 to fully upgrade a held item, and a Pokemon with one of these things had a huge advantage over ones that didn't. A Twitch streamer named Moist Critical even demonstrated how overpowered these items could be in a YouTube video where they just dominated the competition using a Pokemon using a fully leveled up item. It sounds pretty bad, but it seems like the developers, Timmy Studio Group, actually listened to the players' complaints and made some pretty significant changes to how leveling up your items works. And it seems like the player base is mostly happy with how everything works now. It's actually really rare to see developers make changes to their monetization systems to make them player friendly. And it should be acknowledged when it happens, because again, usually when those things change, it moves towards the monetization rather than away. And number 8 is paid experience boosters from Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers is a game that had its fair share of controversies, but it wasn't until 2021 when they finally crossed the line into pay-to-win territory. After directly promising that they wouldn't put loot boxes or pay-to-win scenarios in the game back in 2019, in the first week of October 2021, they tried to sneak in a whole bunch of paid boosters for stuff like increased consumable collecting to straight-up experience boosts, all of which would cost real-world cash to get. Inserted paid boosters into a game more than a year after it originally came out is bad enough, but this also came after they intentionally slowed down experience gains to make the game even grindier. It's no surprise these boosters were the straw that broke the camel's back. The community was already getting frustrated with Crystal Dynamics' lack of updates, and longtime players just started leaving in droves. The backlash was bad enough that the developers actually caved to the pressure and totally removed the paid boosters from the game. All told, these things were in the game for only about a month, but the damage was done. And remember, they put these stupid things into the game the same time that it came out on the Xbox Game Pass. If they had just left the things alone, then the game probably would have gotten more positive buzz from people playing the game for the first time, but instead they got greedy and left a lot of their most diehard fans disillusioned with the whole thing. And number 7 is shark cards in 2021 in Grand Theft Auto Online. An interesting one, because unlike everything else on this list, which is about pay-to-win mechanics that are bad because they're in some way effective, for this entry, we're talking about how pointless shark cards were in 2021. Let's be real here. If you're deep into GTA Online, then you kind of have to treat the game like a job. Your businesses are constantly siphoning money while they're active, so if you want to keep all your acquisitions, then you got to be consistently making money. Over the years, the cost of pretty much everything in GTA Online is inflated, while the actual amount you get from shark cards has remained pretty much the same. What makes GTA Online different from most online games is there's only one form of currency you can use, so the money you get from doing heists and running businesses is the same as what you get from just buying shark cards. But as the game has gone on, the amount you get from simply buying them has remained stagnant, while the amount you earn from in-game activities has gotten higher. So at the end of 2020, it was already kind of a waste to buy shark cards, because they didn't give you a lot of cash and they still cost a lot. But then Rockstar added the Cayo Perico heist on December 15th, 2020 and made shark cards pretty much obsolete. As long as you have the money to buy a sub, which is probably the biggest stumbling block for new players, then it's not hard to take about an hour and do the Cayo Perico heist, make 1, 2, hell even up to 4.6 million bucks fairly easily. If anything, the amount you make off this one heist is too good. For some players, it's basically all they do while playing this game in 2021. You don't even have to do it with a team. It's totally possible to do solo as long as you're okay with making a little less money. Either way, it's hard to see the value in spending 20 bucks on a shark card that gets you 1.25 million when you can make that much in about an hour of gameplay instead. So when we say worst, in this case we mean that literally. Shark cards are absolutely pay to win in this game. They give you money, which you spend on pretty much everything, from cars to guns to businesses, but compare the amount you get from a card to the amount that you get from just playing the game, and it just doesn't add up, especially with that Cayo Perico heist. And number 6 is the Spider-Man emote from Fortnite. Warzone wasn't the only battle royale game this year with a skin many players felt was pay to win, but while the one in Warzone got accusations from being bugged and really hard to see, complaints in Fortnite came from the skin's unique emote. See, this new Spider-Man skin they added in December of 2021 has a built-in emote called the Neighborly Hang, where he'll hang upside down from a web, classic Spider-Man stuff. The problem is that this emote can be used indefinitely, meaning you can hang in the air for as much as you want for as long as you want, and certain savvy players were using it to get the drop in on people who were unaware. So if you use this emote, you can hide in a building in a place nobody would think to look, and he doesn't make any special sounds or really do anything to give away his position. It makes it pretty easy to hide and wait to ambush from places players would not normally look. As usual with Fortnite, this skin can only be earned through the Battle Pass, which you can complete faster by dropping down real-world money. It's another one that's kind of borderline as far as actual pay-to-win advantage, because it's just an emote, not a literal increase in power. It's kind of borderline a hard-to-see camouflage, but whatever it is, it still deserves a mention. It's not like it's the first time people complained about an emote in Fortnite either. There were similar complaints about the Deep Dap emote that allowed players to sometimes hide under geometry and get the jump on other players. It's not quite as bad as a lot of other pay-to-win skins we've seen, but having a unique emote that allows players to hide in the ceiling isn't exactly fair. And number 5 are rare drop boosters from Phantasy Star Online New Genesis. Experience boosters in games are bad enough, but at least with those, you know you're getting something out of it. If something gives you a 50% experience boost for an hour or whatever, then the benefit's obviously very clear. Any experience you earn while the boost is active is 50% more. That makes sense, but right when you start getting into stuff like rare drop boosters, things get complicated. One thing you spend real cash money on in Phantasy Star Online 2 are these things that improve your rare drop rates. I guess that's all well and good, but the problem is that some of the drop rates for items are just ridiculously low, so it's possible, even likely, that if you spend real money getting a booster that improves your rare drop rate by 400%, which would be a massive increase, the actual chances of getting certain rare items is still like crazy small, like less than 1% in some instances, and people don't even seem to fully understand how these things even work. Most assume that the 400% drop booster increases the chances of finding rare items, well, by 400%, but we've seen other comments that suggest that instead of doing that, what the game actually does is that it makes it so you find more items if you're lucky enough to get a drop, rather than increasing the chance of finding them, which seems dumb and counterintuitive to us. Frankly, the more we read about these rare drop boosters in Phantasy Star Online 2, the more we just get confused. At number 4 is WoW tokens from World of Warcraft. Another kind of interesting one because WoW tokens have been a thing in World of Warcraft for a long time now. According to this GameSpot article, they were introduced back in 2015 with the Warlords of Draenor expansion, and were basically implemented as a way to regulate real-world gold selling. People have been grumbling about the inclusion for a while now, but it wasn't until 2021 the player base really started to get worked up about the whole situation, at least as far as we can tell. Here's the deal. These WoW tokens give you a 30-day increase in gold you can earn, and while you can't buy stuff like experience boosters or exclusive powerful weapons directly with all the gold you get in these things, you can exchange gold with other players for specific services like carry runs through mythic dungeons or difficult raids that get you better equipment. So in that way, it's possible for players to take the bonus money they're earning and easily obtain rare armor and weapons that normally require a certain level of skill to acquire. It's kind of a murky area, but it's something that the WoW fanbase is becoming increasingly agitated about. What makes this one unique is that the pay-to-win stuff comes from players paying off other players rather than the developer directly. That's the main thing that puts this situation in kind of a gray area. Still, we thought it was enough to mention it. And number 3, VC grinding is somehow now even worse in NBA 2K22. Another year, another entry talking about an NBA 2K game. If you've seen any of our videos complaining about microtransactions and pay-to-win stuff, you know what to expect here. The thing about NBA 2K22 is that there's really nothing new here. It's just basically as bad as before. All the ways they try to get you to spend money on junk like card packs and slot machines, it's all still there. But at least according to fans on Reddit, they've made the basic act of doing stuff like improving your character even more expensive and grindy than ever before. The problem stems from the fact that upgrading your character costs VC, which you earn through grinding or by just purchasing it. If you want to do something as basic as leveling up your player in single player mode, it's either grind for a very long time or pay up. And remember, this is not a free to play game. If you want to max out your character, it costs more than $50 to do it. That's nearly as much as the price of the game itself, and that's on top of all the other predatory crap in this game. But even if you want to totally ignore the whole card collecting aspect and just play the career mode, the game still finds ways to try to get you to purchase its microtransactions. Instead of coming up with ways to make the game more fun, they just make the grind longer. And number 2 is the Legatus pack from Star Citizen. When it comes to Star Citizen, buying ships is less pay to win and more pay to possibly win someday at some future date, because this game, which is more than a decade into its seemingly endless development cycle, has developers who offer all these super powerful and impressive looking ships for players to buy, but the ships don't actually exist yet and could, in theory, never exist. For so much of this stuff, you're basically buying a picture and a promise that this thing will be awesome someday. Just wait and see. So far, the promise has worked out pretty well for Roberts Space Industries, because as of November 2021, they've earned over $400 million from funding from players, and a huge chunk of that money comes from all these ships they're selling that you can't actually fly yet. So you might think that selling a ship that you can't use in-game is the height of hubris, but that just means you've never seen the Legatus pack. Instead of buying one ship like a common peasant, you can now buy the entire Star Citizen ship catalog for the low price of $40,000. Seriously, $40,000. Like, for all that money, you'll have enough ships to make your own fleet when and if the game actually comes out. What makes this whole thing even crazier is that the only way to even get the privilege of spending $40,000 on a bunch of JPEGs is that you have to have already spent at least $1,000 in the game already, so you're a Chairman's Club member. And I guess at that price point, what's an extra $1,000 anyway? It's a staggering amount of money, but only a drop in the bucket compared to our final entry. Finally, at number 1, Peter Molyneux tricking even more people into giving him money with Legacy. Remember Peter Molyneux? He used to be a really well-respected game developer, responsible for some truly groundbreaking games like Populous, Black and White, and even the Fable series, which didn't turn out to be exactly what was promised ahead of time, but still was great and innovative in its own right. He had a constant habit of over-promising and under-delivering, and it made him a laughingstock eventually. After this whole stupid Curiosity debacle and this total failure of Goddess, we thought we had finally heard the last of Peter Molyneux. So imagine our surprise when we saw a headline that he had raised $54 million for his pay-to-earn NFT game called Legacy. That's 54 million with an M, and it comes from people buying virtual plots of land in a digital version of London. These plots apparently include some common startup spots that sell for about $3,000 to this heart of London stop that sold for literally $900,000. Seriously, someone bought a deed for a virtual plot of land for almost $1 million for a game that exists as concept art. The whole gold rush around NFTs honestly makes pay to win look like kid stuff. Paying to win a game is bad enough, but these people are basically trying a pay to win life scheme, and developers are now banking on people's FOMO to make money. It's not about winning a game. The actual gameplay doesn't actually sound fun at all either. The game seems to exist like basically as a way for the player to earn money by trading the game's unique legacy coin cryptocurrency. And if that sounds like gibberish to you, then congratulations, you are one of the lucky ones. The whole NFT situation is one of the worst things about gaming at the moment, but don't worry, Molyneux promises to be super careful while making this one, so surely everyone who puts money down in this game will make their money back, right? Well, with Peter Molyneux running the ship, we seriously doubt it. Remember, this is a guy who couldn't even get a super basic looking mobile game into anywhere nearly a finished state. Paying real world cash to win a game is bad enough, but investing huge amounts of money in a pay to win game that doesn't even yet exist seems like it's asking for trouble. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is of course a subscription, so click subscribe, enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.